Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yo, 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 yo! What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your hostess with the mostest. It's PKR, Pastor Keenan, back with another episode of People Suck. And yes, they do. But you know what? We got to love them anyways. And as always, I'm joined by my sidekick, Nicky Nick. What's up, Nick? How we doing tonight, man? What's crack-a-lacking? I know I always ask that, like, even though we've already been sitting here talking for 42 minutes. And I say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, everybody else needs to know how I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just like I can just jump right into it and be like, yeah, by the way, he's doing okay.
Yeah. Nick's just sitting over in a corner being quiet. We'll talk to him later.
He
needs some alone time.
Yeah, he's, like he said, he's working on some self-care situations over there, so.
Doing some downward dog in the corner.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, doing some stress relievers and, some breathing exercises and things like that. It's a wonderful thing. But anywho, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode, for hitting that download button, for telling your friends and family, man. We're still on our trek to get towards 5,000 by the end of the year. So please tell everybody that you can, every family member, every friend, everybody that you come in contact with, even if it's at the grocery store, just stop and say, hey, there's a great deal on green beans and you need to download this podcast. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would be a good win-win for people.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some good leeways into that, I mean, like, you just see somebody frustrated waiting in line at the store and be like, you know what, people suck, don't they? And as a matter of fact, we got to love them anyway. It's a great podcast.
It's a great
you should
podcast.
Listen to it sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you were going to try to work green beans and the podcast together. That's what I thought.
I guess you could, if you see like a can of green beans that was just left on the floor, people suck.
Exactly.
People suck. Just leaving stuff laying around everywhere, looking around the toy aisle, can of green beans just sitting there next to the Hot Wheels. Like what's going on? People suck.
Well, that could be good, unless it was baby food green beans, and then I could kind of make it make sense. Maybe they left that they're trying to get a toy instead.
Yeah. Or they just value Hot Wheels over food.
That's true too. That's
possible.
True too. Well, that is the what you would call it, the perspective of a child. Mm-hmm. What's important, I guess. So, anyways, again, thank you guys for doing that, for tuning in, for hitting that download button, man. We're trekking across the world, and
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick, you had some Spotify details I knew nothing about whatsoever. What was that called again?
A lot of people are doing their Spotify Wrapped for the year, which
Wrapped.
is something like that. And it just basically gives you a summary of all the music, podcasts, audiobooks, things like that you've listened to on Spotify throughout the year. And I was kind of able to find, we use we get our statistics from the source where we send our podcast out from, called Spreaker.
Yeah.
We get a lot of our kind of data from there, but I've always wondered if there's a possibility or a way to find data specifically from Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and
Boom.
I was able to find them.
Boom.
After everybody was posting their Spotify Wrapped, I kind of looked into it a little bit more and was able to find Spotify for podcasters and signed in and found all our data from the year, which was pretty cool to see the growth that we've had this year.
I was going to say, man, it was really cool. I feel like for us to. For you to put those numbers out there, I think it was like 120 some odd listeners that we have. We're in the top 5. Is that right?
Yeah. For 127 of our listeners, we're in the top 10. 112 of our listeners, we're in the top 5. And for 66 of the people that listen to us on Spotify, we are their top number 1 podcast.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean,
pretty crazy.
That is pretty cool, man. That at least 66 people in this world, and I know y'all are like 66. But listen, we started with 0. Right. So for us to build to 66 and have those 66 be like, you know what, that is my number 1 go-to podcast every week, like, that's fantastic. I feel like, man,
absolutely. I mean, we're right up there with Taylor Swift and Morgan Wallen.
I was going to say I was almost looking into hiring some private security.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to. I don't know if the Secret Service hires out. I mean, they don't really have to protect Biden that much.
Well, no, I mean, it's just that's a lost cause, I feel like, for the most part. But yeah, so, it's all good. Mm-hmm. But anywho, so let's talk tonight, man. Let's have some convos about what's going on and what's happening and what we talked about on Sunday, and we'll try to work it all together as best as what we can. But Sunday, man, last Sunday, which was, the 3rd, 4th? what was that?
Third, I think. Yeah, third.
Maybe, yes,
like
it was the third, man. Absolutely.
Yep. Beginning of December.
There we go. Yeah, man. The third, we talked about just the how we are, man, how we're pressing the gospel forward. But with pressing the gospel forward, of course, it's going to come with resistance. We've talked about that time and time again about how anytime. As the Holy Spirit has been dealing with me over the last 2 or 3 weeks, man, just revealing stuff left and right. One key point he dropped in was that, a change will always look like chaos to people who aren't ready to change yet. And that, my goodness gracious, man, that is something that has stuck with me over the last couple of weeks, is the simple fact of, even I step back, Nick, and I'm like, am I ready for change? And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be faith-based change. It can be literal, just like everyday change. Just this past week, man, I'm going to air my dirty laundry. But yeah, right. But just
preach, sister,
right, yeah, right. But just this past week, man, like the lady that's cut our hair, mine and my little boys for the last 3 years, I would say, something like that. Like literally just up and dropped a bombshell, and she's like, "Yeah, it's going to be the last time I cut y'all's hair." I'm like, nice. Okay, yeah, nice, right? And I'm like, well,
just cut us out of your life.
Yeah,
like that.
Right. Yeah, just cut it out.
Cut
right?
it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Little Joey Gladstone, absolutely. But I was like, wow, like that's crazy. And then. One of the 17 jobs I do have, or did have, there we go. Notified me this week that that I would no longer be filling the position there, and that's a big change because I've been with them for guess since COVID, so like 3 years there too.
Yeah, close to that.
Yeah, as well. So I'm like, and this came literally, like, this is no joke. Like, it came. The haircut thing came last Thursday, and the job thing came Friday. So like it was like back to back. It was like bam, bam. It was like and I was just like, oh my God. And so whenever I preach messages on Sundays, I always tell people I never preach a sermon that I don't need to hear myself. Mm-hmm. And that's true. It's a true statement. And a lot of times I preach from either what I've been through, going through, or currently dealing with. So, a lot of the sermon on Sunday was reflective of kind of where I've been at, and hopefully other people can relate to it. But it got me to thinking about how, like change is, it has to be inevitable, man. Like for us to keep growing, keep going, and keep getting better in every area, I feel like, of life, physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, like we have to be willing to, I'm not saying go with the flow, but what I'm saying is we have to be willing to ride those waves sometimes, mm-hmm. and not just fall over and curl up in a little ball whenever something doesn't go our way or when something doesn't pan out like we think that it should. But we have to be able to look and go, all right, like what can I do? How's it going to be different? Let's regroup, let's pray, and then let's figure this out. Mm-hmm.
And I really like that message post, whatever you want to say it. You said it during the sermon on Sunday, but you also posted it on Facebook. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Talking about like how sometimes
we'll get to that point.
So we'll get to that. Okay, fine. We'll skip it for now. But again, just talking about like how sometimes as you were kind of saying, sometimes bad things happen to good people. I think really, and we're like or consider ourselves quote unquote good. Yeah. We're like why is this happening to me? Why am I dealing with this? And you went on to say basically like that. Sometimes things happen to us that we don't deserve because if not, then maybe we wouldn't be able to help people in the situations that we're in.
Right, absolutely.
Those bad situations that we were put in, there may be somebody in that situation, there may be something in that situation that we need to be a part of because otherwise nobody else would be in that situation to help them out.
Right.
Nobody else would be in that situation to fix that certain thing.
Yeah.
We've been given skills, talents, abilities. We've been given the Holy Spirit. We've been given the gospel message to spread to people. And sometimes that's going to take us to uncomfortable places. Sometimes that's going to put us in uncomfortable situations. And I think that's a really big thing that, I have to remind myself of time and time again, and I'm sure there were other people here in the congregation that heard that and were thinking that or saw it on Facebook and were thinking this as well, that, hey, there is purpose in the pain. There is a a reason for what I'm going
Yeah.
through. And sometimes we can be selfish. We can think that, I deserve good things to happen to me, or, everything that happens to me because of me,
Yeah.
rather than, hey, this is happening because of what you can do for somebody else.
Right.
And I think that's pretty difficult for some people to grasp.
Yeah, and I'm not like, one thing that really hit my mind today, and I may post this later this week, but I was really thinking about how, and I read even last night, I was reading, Paul was traveling. He was traveling all throughout. He was traveling, Thessalonica. He was traveling to Corinth. He was traveling to all of these different places that you'll later read about in the Bible, with First Thessalonians and First Corinthians and things like that. That's his letters to the churches that he started as he was traveling. But either way, I was thinking that, like, every place he went, Nick, there was always some resistance there. And he was either chased out of town, he was either jailed, he was either beaten, or whatever the case is. And one thing that I got to thinking about, like, you ever hear people say, well, it seems like trouble just follows them everywhere they go. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, and I thought, like, even whenever we talked about the title Sunday, Are You Guilty? And we always use the word guilty in a negative connotation. Mm-hmm. But what if we flip that and say, are you guilty of, again, we put XYZ in there, building the gospel, or building the kingdom, spreading the gospel, loving people. Are you guilty of that? But in this retrospect, like, ask the question, trouble is following you, but why? Mm-hmm. Why is trouble? Again, troublemakers, trouble will follow you. But I also think, too, that if you're doing good and if you're pushing for change and you're trying to be, you're trying to be transformative from what things used to be to what things could be, and you're trying to introduce, this Jesus dude to everybody, like, trouble is going to follow you because people are not willing to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got people that sit in churches every Sunday that aren't willing to change, and they'll run preachers out, or they'll run other members out, or they'll run, whoever they got to out, just so it'll be predictable, mm-hmm. And so, like, that's even something I got to thinking about today. It's like every time I read about Paul and him traveling, everywhere he goes, it's the same thing. He's preaching. Some people believe, some people convert, some people get mad, some people get really mad, and then, they either run him out of town, they threaten to kill him, they put him in jail, or whatever the case is. And it's like, I'm sure some people would look and be like, this man's just causing trouble everywhere he goes. Is he causing trouble, or is he getting resistance and pushback because he's trying to bring change?
Yeah. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of people can kind of sit with tonight or today whenever they're listening to it. But because I think a lot of times we do kind of get like, why is it that I'm always struggling? Why is it that I feel like life is an uphill battle? Why does it feel like everything's coming against me? Yeah. Especially because in those moments, like I've had those moments where I'm like, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. I feel like I'm closer to God than I've ever been. I feel like I'm doing more for His kingdom than I ever have. Why is it that life is still not working out? Why is it that I keep hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock after roadblock? And again, I think there could be a lot of different reasons for that. Maybe God's trying to get your attention for something. God's trying to get you to pay attention to Him or focus on Him. Or maybe it's because you are doing all of this good stuff and the enemy is coming at you with everything he's got to try and stop you, to try and keep you down, to try and keep you from fulfilling your purpose and fulfilling what God has called you to do. Right. And I think it's one of those things, as you have to kind of see it, we oftentimes see it as a discouragement, but we need to see it as an encouragement. Right. We need to allow our trials, allow our tribulations, allow the enemy attacking us to be an encouragement to us, to say, hey, I must be doing something right. I got a big target on my back for some reason. Yeah. And so, allowing that to encourage you and to keep pushing forward, not to give up, not to lessen what you're doing, but to keep pushing, to keep moving forward, to keep your head down and keep pushing that plow across the field.
Well, I think that's a very difficult perspective to take, though. Mm-hmm. Whenever you look and you're like, bad things keep on happening, but I'm still going to keep doing the same thing, because our natural response is, well, something bad happened, so I'm going to switch up everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, like, maybe, where as Christians we have to flip the script on that and be like, you know what, like, just because it's not, sunflowers and daisies and sunshine and stuff like that doesn't mean we're not doing right. Mm-hmm. It just means that maybe that what we're bringing and presenting at the table, people are not ready to accept yet. Mm-hmm. And that's a big issue where we have to really start telling ourselves, like what is important? What is important? Is it the people's response? Is that important? I've been very transparent about that with the church and with people in general, that I felt like that for the longest time that the church's response and people's response to the Holy Spirit, to my messages and things like that was my responsibility. And I would go home and dissect every message and be like, maybe I should have done this different or said this different, or maybe we should have played a different song, or maybe I shouldn't have preached as long, or maybe I should have spent more time over here. And I got to thinking to myself, like, just because people don't fall out of the rafters or just because they don't swing over something and run to the front or whatever, like they could just be unresponsive because they're not ready for change. And that's something that we all have to really look into and say, how willing and able are we to keep transforming and again, growing, on the daily? Because if we are not, then we're going to meet. To me, if the gospel, let me try to break it down like this. If the gospel can mean different things to us in different seasons, even though it says the same wording, it just hits different in different seasons. If that's the case there, then why don't we think that we should be able to change and transform on the daily to be different things in different times in different seasons? True example, really great example. All right, so I was at work today, and a guy that I was working in the back with, he was hauling or pulling or operating, I guess you should say, one of those push forklifts, like one of those walk behind forklifts, right? I had moved my cart that I was using out of the way so he could come through. All right, now that was a blessing. Yeah, all right, but what happened was, where did I push it? I pushed it right in the place that he was going to park it after he got done. So after he got done, what was first a blessing had then become a boundary. Because it's the same instance, but you see, if I would have left that cart there, I moved it in one instance, but see, I had to remove it and bring him back in another season. And so I feel like that's the same way with us. Like in one season, maybe, just maybe, what we're doing is a blessing. But in the next season, we may have to change it up because what we were doing in one season as a blessing now might just be because, oh man, I could go all night about this. You shut up, Nick. I got this tonight. Yeah, put your mic down, mute it.
It's muted.
Yeah, all right. Just tape this at the end. No, I'm just, but one thing like I think about is like if we were to sow, you usually sow in the springtime, right? You work your ground, you sow in the springtime. So
do I look like a farmer?
Well, no.
Exactly.
But you sow in the springtime, man. It grows during the summer. You reap your harvest towards the end of summer, and then, like by fall, your field is barren, and then you're ready to rework it a little bit, let it, set during the winter, whatever. But it's like this. It's like sowing in the spring is a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Because you're preparing your crops. If you were to sow in the fall, it would be a barrier. Because if you're sowing in the wrong season, you see, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's where, like, we have to understand where we have to constantly be ready and open to change. Because if we do the same thing in different seasons, we may not reap the same benefits or blessings, and then we're wondering why. And then we question God, which is not the center point of faith to begin with. It's actually quite the opposite,
Yeah, and I think one thing that's kind of stuck out to me, and I think, if you've listened to any episodes of these podcasts lately this year, it's one of the biggest things that we've talked about, and I think made a big point of, is that comfortability will cost you.
Yeah.
And I know this is super random and super weird, but an analogy that I thought of, I was actually thinking about it before
I'm
we
the only one
recorded,
who can
before
do
you even
analogies.
got here. It's too late, I'm doing it.
Okay.
But one of the things that kind of hit me, again, I was actually thinking about this before I even came up here and we started recording before you got here, but one thing that really stood out to me is, I don't know if you've ever noticed, like, say you got two gas stations, right? You got one across the road from the other one.
Okay.
And one
That
of them,
happens a lot.
right? It happens a lot for some reason. But again, it happens a lot. But have you ever noticed that there are, maybe one gas station is higher than the other one?
Oh, yeah,
but there's
absolutely.
still cars at the other one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, like, we're so comfortable with a certain gas station that we won't go across the street to the other one to save us money.
Save a money.
Because,
save a cent.
Yeah, exactly. So in that situation, comfortability is costing you something.
It's that, and I think it's routine as well. Because, hey, like I said, I'll be transparent with you as possible. Like, I pass coming from where the town I work in, I pass probably 5 gas stations. I will drive all the way to the same gas station that I always use here in the town where I live, even though gas may be 5 cents higher, 6 cents higher. But it's just
often
the
10 to
fact
20
of,
cents higher.
Yeah, well, true. But it's just and this is crazy, but it's just the fact of that I have formed a relationship with the people that are inside, right? And so whenever I get gas, I'll get gas, and then I'll go in, I'll be like, "What's up? It's the All-Star Crew," and really, truly, it's this is no joke. It's a bunch of white haired old ladies. Yeah. That's what it is. And we just like it's we just have fun and cut up and carry on for a second. And so like it's like, Keenan, you're going to sacrifice 6 cents of gas to go cut up with these people, and it's just I think we get in that routine, and it's like but if we were to look, it might be a blessing in one season, but also it's a barrier, because every time you get gas, if you're wasting 6 cents on the gallon, you're getting 13 gallons. That's 78 cents. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but 78 cents a week. All right, and you start multiplying that over monthly, yearly, things like that, and it's like now. What you think is a blessing talking to those people every day, guess what?
It's actually costing you.
It's actually costing you, and so I like that analogy, man.
Yeah. I see. See, I can come up with some good stuff.
Well, I like how you went full sin. You were committed. I wasn't going to talk you out of it, so that's a plus, man. That's a plus. But so Paul and Silas, man, they're pushing this message forward, this gospel message, and what happens, man? They get stripped, they get beaten, they get thrown in jail, and so again. If we're reading that from a very shallow standpoint, we might be like, well, they're doing something wrong. Obviously they're in jail, so they had to do something wrong. And as I was telling people Sunday, like just because you're facing adversity or circumstances like that, we like to substitute God and put the devil and blame him.
Yep.
And that's not the case. If the devil is a defeated foe, that's what the word says, then why are we even battling him? He's going to tempt us. He's going to manipulate us. He's going to trample on us. He's going to try to steal, kill, and destroy from us. He's going to try to do that stuff. But if the Bible says, greater is he. Now, if we believe this, fantastic. We shout about this verse, but we don't let it have substance in our hearts. The Bible says, greater is he that is in me, talking about Jesus, talking about the Holy Spirit. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world, which he's talking about the devil. And so if Jesus is greater inside of you than what the devil is in this world, then why are we struggling? Why are we fighting? Why are we battling for? It's to me, it's not the fact of that, again, it's not the fact of where we're like, oh my God, the devil is so powerful. To me, he's not powerful. To me, it's the fact of that we are not willing to change in the aspect of growing in our faith and growing in our relationship and things like that, and it becomes an issue. Say, like we talk about these phones right here, right? So I heard, and I don't know what your stance is on Stephen Furtick. I mean, whatever. You may think he's a heretic. You may think he's a false prophet or whatever else. You may think he's a great preacher. I don't know. One thing I did hear him say one time that I totally 1,000% agree with is the fact of that we don't know the struggles of today's generation, because you can literally look at porn right beside your Bible app, and in a society where we are so geared towards technology and our phones and podcasts and things, you're probably listening to this podcast on your phone, and so because you're listening to it on your phone, what else is there attracted to your phone or on your phone? So in one season, this phone is a blessing. You know what I'm saying? It's a blessing. I can call people. I can text people. I can stay connected with people. I have general information in my hand. I can read my Bible. I can do everything. But if I am not willing to transform and willing to go deeper, this phone can be a blockage as well, because I can spend more time on this phone than what I do with Jesus. I can spend more time on this phone than what I do growing with him. I can see. So in one season, it's a blessing, but because I'm not willing to grow, it becomes a blockage.
Yeah, I mean, we all have access to, and I think it's kind of crazy because we all have access to, like your phone. I won't say all. Most of us have access.
Yeah.
To be able to look at our phone. Like, there's a little settings in your settings called like screen time, right?
Right.
So like if you look up your screen time, it'll
I don't
show
want to
you.
look at mine, bro.
I know it's kind of it's
so bad.
It's pretty disturbing.
It's so bad.
But like granted, both of us use our phones for business and work and things of that nature. Yeah, you used to. I don't. You don't that much anymore.
I do. I still run church and stuff like that.
Right.
Though.
So I mean, my daily average for the week is 5 hours 49 minutes.
All right. So what is it? Settings and then what?
So I just typed in screen time.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Hang on just a second. Screen time. Okay, so what was yours? 5 hours?
Yeah,
and
5
what?
hours, 49 minutes for the week.
Ooh, 5:15, dog. 34% down from last week.
Mine's 10% down
Let's
from
go!
last week. I know, at this
Let's
rate.
go!
But there's still like 3 days left in the week. So
I know
who
people
knows
are
how
like
long that's
listening,
gonna
going,
go, right?
you're like seriously celebrating 5 hours and 15
seriously,
minutes.
It's pretty rough. But I mean, this goes to show, and I mean, I've read a lot of, I mean, you can call them self-help books, motivational books, listen to motivational podcasts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And all of them, they say that same thing. You have enough time for what you want to spend time with in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
There's 5 hours and 49 minutes that I could have spent doing literally anything else.
Absolutely. Hey, you make time for what
Yep.
you want to do.
Exactly.
There's no excuses,
exactly.
man. There's
Exactly.
no excuses.
And these things are, they're ultra distraction devices. As Keenan was just saying, I mean, you could be listening to People Suck, Love Them Anyways while scrolling through OnlyFans.
Yep.
You could be listening to, an audiobook of the Bible being read to you, you could be scrolling through Facebook. No, I don't
That's
think
not your
so.
feet?
No, not quite.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, not quite. But but I mean, you can be listening to the Bible on an audiobook and be scrolling through Facebook and see ads for Victoria's Secret, and be lusting there. You could be watching somebody get their head blown off and cussing out like somebody else. There's so many different things you can do at the same time as good things. The good and the bad coincide together.
Or you could be taping People Suck, Love Them Anyways.
Right.
And I'm literally scrolling through Facebook, and I have found, oh my God, I have found the oh my goodness, the Holy Grail. Watch. I love the 90s tour. What? I lived in the 90s. Watch this. It says the time has come for a new show announcement, and we are pumped about this one. On August 23rd, Sky Pack, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which again is close to us. I Love the 90s tour will be coming to Sky Pack. We are thrilled to have Color Me Bad. What? Kid and Play. What? And Tone Loc for our lineup. Are you kidding me? That gets me hyped, man. I may go to that. I don't know.
He's more excited for that than church on Sunday.
I am, man.
And
I'm
there we
pumped
go.
right now.
There we go.
Absolutely. That's the
point
flesh
right
side.
there.
Yeah, everything
Yep.
I've talked about in this podcast tonight is basically totaled up right there together. Yeah, in that one statement. You're like, yeah, I was listening to you, Pastor, and then all of a sudden you're listening to Tone Loc. Well, you know what? Funky Cole Medina. You know,
and that's what's crazy is because people are listening to this right now, and they're like, oh my gosh, a 90s tour. So now they're listening to us, and they're looking it up.
Yeah, they're going Tone Loc. Funky Cole.
We've officially turned people away from God and towards the 90s tour.
I'll find you there, and we'll pray together for forgiveness.
Yeah, we'll go up there. We'll rush the stage and pray for everybody up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it's just important for us to pay attention to the distractions in life. What are you spending your time on? What are you allowing to speak into your life? Are you getting comfortable just doing the same thing you've always done, or are you getting comfortable sitting here, listening to us while scrolling through Facebook, or are you putting more time into your relationship with God and building your faith so that when things happen to you, when you are faced with trials and tribulations, when you are in dark times, when you feel the pressure, that you don't immediately jump towards, God, I can't believe Satan's coming at me again.
Right.
Satan, get behind me. And all that's all good and dandy, but you're sitting there again, like you said, you're speaking to a defeated foe.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even be. It's like he's got 99 problems and Satan ain't one of them.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like I even made the comparison Sunday. I said, it's almost like being in a boxing match. I said it was almost like Rocky, knocking Apollo Creed down on the ground, but yet he's still boxing from the ground. Like he's still hitting Rocky laying on his back.
He's back there as a little, what are you doing? You suck.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like,
I'm number one.
Mick, call me, cut me, Mick. But I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that we deal with a defeated foe, and it's truly, I don't think we deal with the defeated foe. I think we make the devil the scapegoat because we are not willing to accept change and transition in our lives. The Bible says, Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to the world, but yet be transformed. You know what transform means? Change.
Yeah, I've seen the movies.
What movies?
Transformers.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about, bro? I thought you was going with some Annabelle or The Conjuring or something like that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Optimus Prime,
yeah, okay. So yeah, you're going more of like that route. I'm cool with that. But do not be conformed to the things of this world, but yet be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So transform means changed. Renewing means changed. But so we're having to constantly change in order not to conform to the world, which means look like the world, be like the world, smell like the world, act like the world, be crazy like the world. In order to not be and separate ourselves, we have to keep on changing. We have to keep on evolving. We have to keep on growing. We have to keep on getting better. And sadly enough, and I got to say this, it's not always going to be good. It's not always going to be great and feel great. Change sometimes is going to be met with resistance and met with anger and met with frustration and met with people that are nasty people. That's why, like, man, I just warn everybody that, like, goes into churches, no matter where you go, there's going to be some old sap sitting, or young sap, maybe, I don't know, sitting on your pew somewhere in a church, somewhere, and they don't want change. They are very comfortable with the way everything looks, the way everything goes, the way everybody acts. And you might be that person that walks in and be like, man, like, whew, I tell you what, you know what? I want to evolve with Jesus. I want to get better. I want to grow. And then all of a sudden you start trying to implement change, and that one person is going to just look at you like they hope that you died in the third realm of hell tonight whenever you go home. And, people will let those actions be like, well, I ain't never going back to church because they're mean. Listen, not every church person is mean. You know what I'm saying? And not every
just the old ones.
You're right, yeah. And not every worldly person is mean. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say this. To me, there's good people. There's good people that don't go to church. Okay, I'm just going to say that. It doesn't mean their souls are spoken for. But there's good people in this world that do not attend church. There's good people in church. Are there bad people in the world? Absolutely. There's 9,200 Netflix documentaries about bad people in the world. But there's also bad people in church. But, the thing about it is, as we say all the time, man, the bad people in the world never stop us from going to Walmart, from going out to eat, from going to do stuff, from going and enjoying stuff. So bad people in the church should never stop us from going and trying to implement change and do stuff inside the church either, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to, I guess, because we are getting a little bit late, but I want to wrap up. No, not really. Compared to what we used to do,
what time are we,
you
man?
guys listening better be thankful. We used to do like hour and 15 minute, 30-minute episodes.
Yeah, man.
But I do also want to kind of talk about because I thought it was really, really important when we talked about on Sunday is with persecution, like how we as the church in America. Again, we have people who listen in different countries
worldwide.
We have people worldwide who probably do experience the persecution that the early church kind of experienced. But we were talking, or you were talking Sunday about persecution in America.
I like how you act like you was ever helping me.
I was up there on stage. Hey, I gave you my phone in the middle of service. I helped you a little bit.
You did.
Helped you out a little bit there. Yeah, undaunted. Yeah, we'll get to that. But I think one of the biggest things is like we sit here in America and we think that we're being so persecuted. Like, oh, I got shorted a nugget at McDonald's. I'm being so persecuted. It's the after church crowd and they just knew it. They saw what I was wearing.
Yeah.
But we get so upset. Like we call things like the LGBTQIA plus movement. There's so many things. Abortion rights. So many things out there, and we think, oh, we're getting persecuted. But like I think really what you brought forth on Sunday was really, really true. Have you been to jail?
Yeah.
Have you been flogged?
Yeah.
Have you been hung upside down on a cross, bled to death?
Yeah.
Suffocated? And I think there's those things that we've gotten soft. I guess I kind of want to put it that way. Like,
that's one thing that I really wanted to hit on tonight was, and I don't know what what you would even call it, but like crybaby Christians or whatever. I don't know. We may end up calling it that, but like. I truly do feel like that.
Churches need those cry rooms that university has.
Yeah, like no joke. Like I was really thinking about that as a direction to go tonight. As I was like trying to, believe it or not, we don't have a script, we don't have topics, we just come in here and wing it. And I feel like we do pretty.
Probably
decent.
Why we don't have sponsors.
This is true, but I feel like we wing it. But I feel like we do a pretty good job. It's who we are. That's what we do. But one thing I was thinking about, though, was that how, again, we live in a day and age and a time where everybody is offended by everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's offended by everything. You can't say nothing. You can't do nothing. You can't post nothing. You can't wear nothing. Everybody's offended. And it's like the church, instead of, and Christians, instead of standing up and being like, I stand for this. I believe in this. I'm going to promote this. This is what I believe in, and this is what I'm willing to die for. Instead of doing that, we literally have become just like the world, and we become offended. It offends us. As I made the example on Sunday, Nick. I feel like the biggest persecution that the church has got in America is that we literally went to court over making a cake for a gay couple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like
Tough stuff.
Yeah, I mean, is this where we're at right now? And it's just things like that where I'm sitting here going, like, we're like I don't know, man. There's so many different views that you can come at this from, but like for me, without knowing every single detail from both sides of the story, man, I'm looking at this like in an opportunistic type way, where I'm looking and going, you know what? What if you didn't refuse to bake a cake for that gay couple? Mm-hmm. What if instead you baked the cake, gave it to them for free, and said, you know what? God is going to bless you. God is going to take care of you. God is going to show you how to live for Him. That's what I pray. Mm-hmm. That's what I pray.
Yep. And I think,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've addressed this angle a couple times before, especially like, and I talked about Andy Stanley, his point of view on like shutting the churches down during COVID.
Yeah.
Like we were like, oh no, we're not going to shut church down during COVID. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then all we were doing was making us look like even bigger morons to the people who already thought we were morons.
Right. Yeah.
These people are just being, like they're the reason that people are dying. People were looking at us and blaming us for, I say us, but blaming Christians for people dying because, they weren't going to stop going to church. They were killing the old people in their congregations. They were being selfish. Yeah. And I mean, again, that's pushing people further away instead of bringing people further or closer in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's like where you have to look at both sides. Like, and I think we do a great job here of, like I said, man, we try not to build walls. We try to build bridges, and get people to understand. And it's like, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that just because I do something nice for somebody does not mean that I support, that I am in their corner, does not mean that I agree with their lifestyle or anything else. But what it does mean is that whenever I find Jesus eating with sinners, and I find Jesus in houses with sinners, and I find Jesus pursuing sinners, and I find Jesus saying, come down, I'm coming to your house today. Listen, I'm not Jesus. Mm-hmm. I don't have the power and authority to save somebody's heart and soul. That's not me. I can pray for you. I can help lead you. But that's still your ultimate decision. But I think where we get it twisted at is the fact of that we have become so offended by sin and lifestyles and things like that, where it's like we're just gonna build an island, and we're gonna stay on that island and be like, you know what, like this is the island of perfection, this is the island of goodness, this is the island of purity or whatever it is, and it's like, no, honey, we all sinning, we all falling short, and we all got problems, and for me, I would rather be that person that openly is like, yo, I'm struggling, I'm messed up, I'm tore up, I'm not where I need to be, instead of being like Ai in the Bible, who was consuming sin by hiding it underneath the tent and hiding it underneath the bed, and because he did, then guess what happened? You know what I'm saying? Guess what happened? His whole family. I said AI was actually, I think it was Achan. I think was his name. I don't know. I have to look that up, man.
Anyways, like an R&B singer.
Achan.
Yeah.
No, locked up, won't let me. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, like it literally cost his whole family their lives because he wanted to sin in silence. Basically, he wanted to sin and knock that sin underneath the blankets and be like, yo, I can hang on to this. And
we forget that God sees and that God knows everything.
Absolutely. And so for us, I feel like, man, that like, I feel like that, again, we should not be hesitant about getting our hands dirty for the needs of Jesus, and for the need of Jesus in people's hearts and lives. And, to not be offended by choices that have been made, but yet be offering of the grace that he gave us freely as well.
And I think, and again, I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast, but, when I took a trip up to Frankfort, the state capital here in Kentucky, it was during a time that they were having a lot of, unrest surrounding some LGBTQIA plus gender affirming care, things of that nature, going on there at the Capitol. And the first day we were there, the people who represented the LGBTQIA plus movement, they were there, talking about what they wanted. They were being loud, of course, disruptive, trying to be heard, trying to make sure that their point was being heard and that people were listening to them, and that all that kind of stuff, trying to make sure that they could get what they were wanting, what they were there for. And they were upset. And that's one thing. I remember walking around. I could tell that these people were upset. I could tell that they were bothered. I could tell that they were angry. I could tell that they were emotional to say something. But then what really shook me, and when I really felt that God had kind of showed me this, was the next day. when the Christians were in the Capitol.
Right.
You know, they were, you know, they were calling names, they were saying things, they were being mean, they were being, you know, they were shooting back just like the others were. You know,
Right.
like it was like a back and forth cat calling, or not cat calling, but like a cat fight.
Yeah, cat calling's a whole nother ball game, bro. Yeah,
but it
we
was
got
more
a whole
like
other issue
it was
with
more
cat
like,
calling.
It was basically more like a cockfight than it was
Yeah.
like, than it was than that. But I mean, and
Don't
really,
search that on
right,
Facebook
don't look
either,
that
or
up.
on internet,
Don't
but-
do it in real life either.
Yeah.
Don't buy chickens.
Yeah.
But I think really the biggest thing that was spoke to me is, what if the people who are here today, and this was the second day, what if the Christians here today were here yesterday?
Uh-huh.
You know, what if they were walking amidst these people who were frustrated, who were angry, who were hurt, and tried to get to know them, tried to talk to them, tried to show them love, tried to say, hey, what are you doing? Why is it that you feel that? What is it that's causing you to feel this way? Where is this confusion coming from? Where is this anger coming from? Where is all this stuff coming from? You know, and if they were there, and again, not necessarily saying they agree with their viewpoints, but if they were there showing them Christ's love, if they were there helping them, serving them, you know, washing their feet, doing
Right.
things like that,
Yeah.
you know, how much more of a difference could those Christians have made doing that versus what they were doing down there in the rotunda just screaming?
Yeah.
You know, how much more of a difference can it make if we stop treating people like the Grinch with, you know, I don't want to touch them with a 39.5-foot pole. Like if we stop treating people that way
Wonder
and
why
we
it's
bring
a-
them in,
I wonder why it's a half foot.
I don't know, probably just rhymed.
Yeah.
Like, it's something with the
I literally
the song.
said that the other day. I was like, you know what? And I'd be like the Grinch and not touch him with a 39. I said 39 foot. And the
Yeah.
guy that was beside him, he said, actually, it's 39.5. I said,
Yeah.
yes, it is. You are right, but I left a half foot out. It's
Right.
crazy.
But I mean, you know, it was almost Christmas time. We're recording this in December, you know, and I think, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, like, I see that, you know, the Grinch was isolated because he looked different. You know,
Yeah.
he had that anger. He was frustrated. You know, he didn't understand. The Who's didn't understand him. He didn't understand the Who's. But as soon as they were
Well,
able,
if you
right-
remember, he was actually run out of town because of the way he looked.
Yep, because of how he was and
Yeah.
all those sorts of things. People made fun of him. People, you know, poked fun and all that good
Right.
stuff. But I mean, they were just as mean down there as he was. You know what I
Oh,
mean? They
absolutely.
were mean, pointing fingers, all that. Of course, depends on the iteration you were reading or listening to or watching. But again, you know, if you know, at the end, you know, they came together, they were able to find common ground. They were able to show love and empathy with each other. And you know, and I think it's just one of those things that we need to do in this season is to challenge ourselves to change, to talk to different. We've talked about this time and time again, to talk to somebody who's different than you.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody who looks different than you, talks different than you, believes different than you.
Yeah.
Try to learn their perspective. Try to read about their struggles. Try to understand who they are and what they've been through. You know, and I promise you, you realize that at the core, we're all struggling with the same things. We're just adapting in different ways. You know, you may not, you know, you may be dealing with confusion. You may be dealing with anxiety. You may not feel, you know, like you're who you're supposed to be. But you know, you don't react the same way that somebody who's transgender might. You know, you're not pursuing those same type of avenues. You know, maybe you're struggling with anxiety or confusion, and you never thought about suicidality, but somebody else does.
Right.
And it is important to kind of have those conversations to reach across the aisle, to build those bridges, and to really to speak to other people, to get to know other people. You know, because otherwise, you know, I think this is just a thing. You know, we can sit here and speak hate. We can sit here and argue and say, you know, you shouldn't associate with those types of people. You shouldn't agree with that kind of lifestyle. You shouldn't bake cakes for those types of people. You shouldn't allow marriage licenses for those types of people. You know, they're, you know, I'm feeling persecuted because they want me to do that. I'm feeling persecuted because they want me to bake that cake. You know, when you don't really know what true persecution is. As a matter of fact, I would argue and say that these people that you're saying are persecuting you have felt more persecuted in their life than you do. You know, they felt misguided. They felt alone. They felt hated. They felt disgusted. You know, people are disgusted by them. People will call out and call them names in public, and you know, they throw things at them and all these sorts of things. You know, I mean, I've read about these people. I've heard about these people. I've met these people. I've talked to these people that have experienced these types of things. And you know, we're over here butt hurt because we were told to make a cake. Like,
Right.
you know, in reality, you know, there are people in the Bible who were persecuted much worse than we ever will be, or a lot of us ever will be. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And then there are these people that we are saying, you know, as Christians, we say that these people are persecuting us and making, you know, are upset by the way we believe. But, you know, again, these people have been, you know, persecuted in a whole other direction. You know, they've been hated. They haven't been shown Christ's love. They've been things thrown at them. They've been called insults. They've been, you know, made to feel alone. They've been made to feel stupid. They've been made to feel disgusting, whatever else you want to throw out there. And again, I'm not sitting here okaying that lifestyle. I'm not okaying what, you know, again, the Bible says a sin is sin. But what I'm saying is that these are human beings who are struggling with things that we as Christians have the answer to. And instead of helping them, we're throwing things at them. Instead of helping them, we're building walls and separating ourselves from them.
Yeah.
And we're saying that they're persecuting us when in fact they are also feeling persecuted.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's just, we as Christians aren't called to persecute people. We're called to love people.
Yeah. You know what sounds good?
Yeah.
Captain D's.
It does sound pretty good, actually. As a
Captain
matter of fact,
D's,
it does
man.
sound pretty good. I thought about eating fish sandwiches when I get home, but
Man.
I mean, Captain D's sounds pretty
Captain
good.
D sounds amazing. All right. Well, anyways, yeah, man, let's just break it down. Let's end it there. I feel like that's some good stuff to chew on, like some Captain D's fish. But I feel like it's some good stuff to chew on, to digest, and to really for us to just take inner looks towards ourselves and say, you know, are we growing? Are we evolving? Are we changing? Are we being that Christian that is not stuck in 1978, but yet we're growing with the times, and we're trying our best to go deeper with Jesus and be more involved with Him, so we can be more involved with people. If that answer is no, then guess what? We need to pray, we need to read, we need to connect, and we need to do better. Thank you so much again for listening to this podcast, for listening to this episode. Tell your friends, tell your family, hit that download button as we surge on towards 5,000 for the end of the year. So as for my co-host and my sidekick, Nicky Nick, I'm Pastor Keenan, PKR. We say thank you so much. We love you, and until we see you next time, be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go,
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick, Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love Them Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.